And just like that, we have another Set Champs season in the books. And as such, here's the deck I decided to run. It's a little bit of a spicier list that almost nobody expected at my locals, which was obviously to my advantage as I was able to get the card, was unable to get the mat, but that's okay. You live and you learn. The deck was kind of incomplete anyways, so I was surprised it did as well as it did. There would obviously be some changes I would make. Some additions, as I just didn't have the cards at the time. I do now, so moving into next season, if I choose to play this deck again, I will have the extra cards. But if you do decide you want to play something a little bit spicy in the last couple days of Set Championships, this is the deck for you. As previously mentioned, I did opt to run a more spicier list. This time I decided to run Emerald Ruby discard. In my testing leading up to my one Set Championship that I was able to partake in, it felt good. It felt good into much of the meta, and I never felt like I was really down and out in any matchup. Obviously, there are difficult ones like Steel Song, which unfortunately for me, I ran into all day, so it was kind of like a tricky day for me to get through. But let's go through the list, and I will then discuss what my matchups were and how they played out. So this deck actually runs 41 characters and 20 non-characters. That just felt good in my opinion. Obviously I'm going to make changes if I play this into the next set, as much of this deck is getting rotated out. But this is the deck list so far that worked for me. We are running 4 Diablo. Diablo is obviously great as I am running the shift option, which with 20 non-character cards, I have plenty of options to discard and get the Diablo draw engine going early. I also opted to run 4 card soldiers. This was problematic for many of the decks that I ran into, especially with a couple cards that you're going to see coming up that helped card soldier out. Card Soldier was just able to deal with much of the early aggro, which I expected, and it's just a great card for this particular deck. When you're running Emerald, you obviously have to run 4 Ursula 2-drops. This is a must-add as we're basically in a steel meta going into this Set Championship, and with all the Steel Song versions out there, Ursula is a must-have in your deck, especially in a discard build. And then my little bit of spice is I was running 4 copies of Dormouse. Now I anticipated my locals being a lot of the Steel Song running Rhino, and Dormouse is just the perfect way to get around Rhino, as Rhino is a very hard card to play around. And this card is great as it doesn't deal a damage, it puts a damage on, which also works well with Card Soldier. Turn 1 Card Soldier, turn 2 Dormouse, they can't avoid the damage, and this guy obviously gets buffed up. And that's just a great little play that I would do. That was one of the main lines that I ran, as I ran into Steel Song 3 times in my Set Championship. So it worked out quite well, and it just a great addition into this deck. For our 3-drops, we have our draw engines. We are running 4 copies of Diablo, obvious addition into an Emerald deck, as if this thing can get going and it's not stopped, you can just take over the game almost immediately. And then we are also opted to run 4 Prince John. Unfortunately, Prince John is getting rotated out, but it did do its job in this particular Set Championship, as I am running a heavily discarded deck. In my opinion, Ruby Emerald, with the help of a new card Undermine, is one of the best discard options if your goal is to purely discard your opponent's hand. It's one of the best. And Prince John, obviously amazing, so that's why it's in the deck. As mentioned previously, I did anticipate a lot of Steel Song aggro going into my Set Championships, so Super Goof running 4 copies was essential. It's just perfect against these aggro-y builds, as it has rush and it gains me lore. I also opted to run 4 copies of Chip. This one I'm on the fence about. You could probably take out 1 copy and still run this deck effectively. I opted for 4 as I really wanted to have my opponent discard all of their hand, and then hopefully I have the advantage at that point. So, and then I opted to run 2 copies of Scar. This just felt good, especially playing against aggro decks and utilizing Dormouse effectively. I was able to put damage counters, challenge, and then obviously acquire more cards via Scar, as whenever I challenge a damaged character, I draw a card. So it just felt good. The ward helps as well. I did see a couple green players at my set championship, so if I did run into them, I could deal with their Muse pretty well with Scar as it trades. So it just felt good. 2 also felt really good. I thought about doing 1 copy, but 2 felt good. Alright, for our 5 drops, we have 3 copies of Cricky. This obviously helped our smaller characters punch up, as well as it quests for 3, so that hurt my opponents pretty well, as well as 2 copies of Lucifer. I know some people play 1 copy of Lucifer. I really like Lucifer. I think it's a very strong card, especially in the current meta, and it paid off well, as it really solidified my cards and my ability to have my opponent playing with nothing. It helped out a lot, and 2 obviously felt great. And for our last 2 cards, we had 2 copies of Maui Half Shark. Honestly, I would have liked to had 4. Going into this set championship, I only had 2 copies and wasn't able to acquire any more. All my local stores were sold out, and I just didn't see any in any groups that I am in to purchase. So I ran this set championship with 2. This card is amazing. It's probably the best card in the game at the moment, as its price point suggests, as it's still sitting around $60 or something like that Canadian. It's just a perfect card, and it really, when I was able to play this card, it benefited me heavily. Right, and as mentioned before, we're running 20 non-character cards, and we're going to fire through those fairly quickly. I opted to run 2 copies of Mosquito Bite. With how much purple I anticipated as well, even though I did anticipate more Steel Song, this also helped in the purple matchup, so it just felt good to have. It counters Rhino fairly well, the same way that Dormouse does, as well as it counters all the Vanish cards, which I also anticipated seeing. So it's just great. Now, one of the best cards in this deck so far is Undermine, which we are running 4 copies of. This is a fairly new card, and it reads, chosen opponent chooses and discards a card. Obviously, that plays into the playstyle of this deck. And then it also has chosen character gets +2 strength this turn, which is awesome. Now, this does many things, and that's why it's in the deck. Obviously, we want our opponent to discard their hand as soon as possible, but it also helps us punch up characters. So it helps our smaller characters punch up and take out bigger things, as well as it also helps get rid of vanished characters. It'll make your opponent discard a card, and it'll help get rid of the pesky Iagos, which you might run into. Obviously, we are running 4 copies of Sudden Chill. This is a must-have for any discard deck. We are running 3 copies of Hypnotize. I was running 4, but I did want to run a copy of Brawl, so I did take out 1 Hypnotize and I added 1 Brawl. Then we are running 4 copies of We Don't Talk About Bruno. Obviously an essential add. It removes a character and has your opponent discard a card, which is great. And then we're running 2 copies of Pirate's Life. Going into next season, Pirate's Life has not been rotated out. It's going to be reprinted, which is great. So if I opt to run this deck again, I will try and fit a 3rd copy into this deck, as it's just, it worked wonderfully in this build, and it's a must-have. So in the Swiss rounds, I actually went 3-1. My first game was against a traditional Steel Song build, which I went 2-1 against, which felt good. I was on the draw in that game. So obviously I'm at the disadvantage. And then I went 3-0 for the dice rolls and won my next 3 games in a row. My next game was another Steel Song. It was a traditional build, and I kind of learned from my mistakes from the first game, and I was able to take advantage of that matchup. And then game 3 was against Blurple. This was a weirder build. They were running that octopus card, I forget what it is. When you draw a card, it gets +1 challenger. So I was really able to take advantage of the fact that it's not a traditional Blurple deck, and I was able to win 2-0 against that. Obviously, Maui came in clutch, as they would drop the genies, Iagos, and other characters that are evasive, and I was able to remove it with Maui, which felt good. And then in my final matchup, I went up against a Steel Song aggro deck, which I was able to 2-1, which felt good again. And then in Top Cut, I lost against the Steel Emerald Mickey Mouse deck, where they just cheat out the big Mickey Mouse and using Hades or the Return of Hercules card, which is a very, very strong option too if you want to go into your set championship. But yeah, this deck felt good. I was happy with its performance. Obviously, I would change a couple things. I would add 2 extra copies of Maui Half Shark, as well as 1 extra copy of Pirate's Life. But besides that, I think if you want to run something spicy and something that no one's going to expect, this is the deck for you.